What is the spiritual significance of numbers in our life? Hi, I'm Rev Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. So, what is the spiritual significance of numbers in our life? Well, the spiritual significance of numbers is not something that we normally think about. Even though we are surrounded by numbers every day in almost all aspects of our life, of your mind. So, excuse me. So, as I was saying, though we don't ordinarily think about numbers in our lives, numbers exist in all aspects of our lives. Uh, and the ways they relate to our lives normally um, have no spiritual meaning. We're usually thinking about things like how much money is on my paycheck, will I have enough to pay for the groceries, uh, why does the price of gas keep going up? All those things that have to do with the mundane world, um, or numbers having to do with events that are coming up in my life or that have some importance, like how many shopping days to Christmas, how many days to my partner's birthday or our anniversary, or how many vacation days do I have left. Those are all mundane numerical references that uh, hit us and have importance to us. But from a spiritual aspect, we don't usually think of anything from a spiritual perspective. Please click on the thumbs up button uh, below, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Remember, I'm always looking for questions, thoughts, comments relating to our subject matter or anything that you would like to discuss. I'd love to hear from you. So please use the chat box on the left side of the screen, or if you're doing a replay, it will be below the video. So basically what I'm saying here is there's so much more to numbers than we normally think about. But as spiritual warriors, I want to elevate our awareness of numbers and what numbers mean to us, or what numbers can mean to us, because numbers have power beyond counting our money or calculating the stresses in a building or a bridge, or figuring out some piece of software or launching a rocket to the moon. No, there is much more to numbers than that. About 2,600 years ago, uh, Pythagoras, who was a Greek philosopher, scientist, mathematician, etc., said, numbers rule all things. And about 100 years later, Plato came in and said, numbers are the highest degree of knowledge. It is knowledge itself. Everything that exists is based on numbers. Everything, absolutely everything that exists is based on numbers. I've heard it said that God creates mathematically. So if we start paying attention to the numbers, we will begin to see recurring patterns of numbers in our lives that can begin to take on a significance that is more than just counting, but actually has some kind of message for us. Pythagoras was so intrigued by the power of numbers and the influence of numbers and their vibration that he created a system for numerical interpretation called numerology. Now, numerology is a system in which you can analyze the numbers of someone's birth date or their name to get some information about them. If you analyze their birth date, you can pretty much figure out where their path is, where their life path is going to take them in general. We're talking about generalities here. And if you analyze the numbers in their name, you can generally get some pretty good idea of what their personality is like and what will interest them. And as you get deeper and deeper into the analysis through numerology, you come up with some pretty interesting and specific things about people. Now, the Hebrew language also incorporates a system of numerical interpretation. It's called the gematria. And the gematria is an alphanumeric code that's assigned, it assigns a numerical value to each letter of the alphabet in the Hebrew language. Actually, there are no numbers in the Hebrew language. All the numbers and the letters are all combined. And so each number has a numerical value, and then when you add up with the value of each word, you begin to get a sense of what that word is, not only from the language standpoint, but from the spiritual, the underlying standpoint, the underlying energy standpoint. And it's interesting when you get into gematria, you'll find that words that have the same vibration actually have very similar effects, even though they mean something different. Even though in the language they mean something different, when they have the same vibration, they have very similar influences and effects. It's quite interesting. Secret societies also have rituals that are based on numbers that correspond to dates. So there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot of depth, a whole lot, so many layers when it comes down to numbers. The holy books, the holy scriptures of all the different religions, the Western Holy Bible, the Muslim Quran, the Jewish Talmud, the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, and others are filled with number references that are repeated over and over again. And as you begin to get into those numbers, you'll see that they have spiritual significance that has importance relating to their presence, that is, where they're located in the writings and what they mean. So even if you go beyond the ancient scriptures and you go beyond the mathematics of it, and you get into the present day, that is your current life, you will see that numbers are at work there too. Numbers send messages to us through infinite intelligence. Infinite intelligence is constantly communicating with us on so many different levels at the same time. It is mind-boggling. And through numbers is another way that infinite intelligence is sending messages to us. But most of us miss the lessons because we have never been taught to read them or even to see them. But they're being flashed at us from all different directions, from everywhere, in the movies, in TV, addresses, clocks, flashing signs, people talking, literally everywhere. Numbers are flashing at us. And with so many numbers flashing at us, you're probably wondering, well, how can I do anything with that? There's so much going on. How do I begin to interpret that? What does it mean to me? Good question. Very good question. I used to ask myself that same question when I first got started into becoming aware of the presence of numbers all around me. I first got into numbers when I was in Hollywood on a production trip. I was producing a television commercial for Michelob beer. And while we were on the shoot, I noticed that one of the actors, when she would take a break, she would sit down with this book and begin writing on a piece of paper from the book. So I asked her what she was doing. And she explained that the book was a book on numerology, and what she was doing was going through the process of analyzing the birth date and name of one of her friends. Well, during the day, we had several conversations about numerology and about the book. And later, I bought the book, and my wife and I really got into numerology and analyzing numbers, etc. And as I became more and more aware of the numbers and how they appear in my birth date and in my name, but all around me, I began to realize that there were so many aspects of life that were being influenced by numbers. And at first it was somewhat overwhelming, but then what I realized is that you don't have to pay attention to all the numbers. In fact, you can just sort of go about your day and as you ordinarily would and ignore the numbers. It's just that because if you try and pay attention to all of them, it's going to give you a headache. But what happens is, if you barely pay attention to the numbers, what's going to happen is that they'll begin to pop up. They'll begin to catch your attention. Certain numbers will catch your attention at certain times. It's almost as if the same thing would happen if you decided, I'm going to buy a Hyundai Genesis, which is a fairly new car, and most people don't even know what it looks like. But you suddenly decide, I'm going to buy a Hyundai Genesis. Well, when you make that decision, all of a sudden you start seeing around you people driving Hyundai Genesis. It's like once they were invisible, but now that you've programmed your mind to be aware of them, you see them all over the place. And it's that way with numbers. Because we program our minds to say, okay, I'm going to be aware of numbers, then all of a sudden you'll begin to become aware of numbers as they relate to you specifically. So I remember when just as an example, when I was a student in the mystery schools preparing for my ministerial studies, and I was exploring the teachings of ancient religions and their influence on modern religions and the things that came through and the things that changed. During that period, I moved into a new apartment. And what was interesting was when I decided I was going to move into a new apartment, going to get a new apartment, and started to look for them, I found this apartment that struck me in the paper. Back then we used to have ads in the paper for apartments. But something about it struck me, so I went to see it, and it was perfect. It was exactly what I was looking for. And it only just become available the day before. So the day I decided that I was going to look for an apartment, that apartment became available and it was in the paper the next day. And I found it in the paper. I went and I looked at it. So it turned out that was the only apartment I looked at, and it was perfect for me. I loved it. I took it right away and moved in within the next couple of weeks. So what was it about this apartment? Well, one was the address of the building. The address of the building was 1122. Let me see that. Now, 1122 adds up to 33. The number 33 is a number that's it's labeled, designated as a quote-unquote master number. But the number 33 is called master teacher. It signifies master teacher. Has deep spiritual and religious meanings. And what it means is the appearance of the number 32 indicates the need for a proper understanding and grounding of spiritual teachings. And after you have understood the spiritual teachings, then you become a teacher, and it is your mission to go out and communicate that understanding to other people. So where the 33 appears, you are taking on the role of being a master teacher. So that was the apartment, 1122. Next was my apartment. That was the building, I'm sorry. The next was my apartment number. My apartment was number 4. Now the number 4 is the number of work, the number of, it's rooted in the physical world. It's about being present in the now, but it's about work. It's about building a foundation and developing a down-to-earth perspective, a foundation. For example, there are 4 seasons, 4 elements, 4 corners of the earth, a foundation, a strong foundation. So here I am, I'm moving into a building that has the number 33 as its address, which is spiritual master teacher, into apartment number 4, which is the number of work and laying a foundation. So what happened was the universe, infinite intelligence, placed me in this place, in this apartment, where I was doing my spiritual work, my learning to become a master, to become a spiritual teacher. And all the vibration in this particular location was to support that, was to move me into that state of mind, to keep me in that state of mind, and in that living vibration where my mission and my training were being supported. So that's that's what we're going to be exploring as we go through the next few days, is the influence of numbers and their meanings, so that you can then, as a spiritual warrior, begin to detect and analyze the numbers that are being pushed upon you, that are being flashed to you, that are being shown to you, influencing your life, so that you, as a spiritual warrior, have another level of awareness to make you a stronger spiritual person. Okay? So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. In the meantime, let's close with prayer. Thank you. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we are beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. And as we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. And we know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Again, please click on the thumbs up button below, and if you haven't already done so, I'd be greatly appreciated if you would choose to subscribe. Remember, I'd love to hear from you, your comments, your thoughts, your suggestions, using the chat box on the left side of the screen, or I guess it's the right side of the screen, or underneath when you're doing a playback. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind.